Hello, this is Wyatt Ward, and I will be discussing how to convert a video with FFmpeg. FFmpeg is a free video encoder. It was written by free software advocates starting in the early 2000s, and it is capable of encoding and decoding multiple formats, more than most commercial encoders and decoders can handle. There are plenty of reasons why someone would want to encode a video. The first foremost reason, raw video files are very infeasible for long-term storage. They take a lot of space on the disk and are difficult to play back on low-powered machines. This is due to the input and output rates of the device not being able to match the huge size of the video going through from the storage medium to the CPU of the computer. Also, certain devices only accept certain video formats. For example, Apple devices usually only support MPEG-4 or H.264 video standards and AAC, or Advanced Audio Codec, for audio. Videos in other formats may not play at all on Apple devices or may encounter strange errors. FFmpeg's flexibility as a media encoder means that it can also be used to edit videos, so it can be useful for resizing a video for a smaller screen or for increasing the size of a video and applying filters. In fact, FFmpeg is currently being used to encode this video tutorial. This tutorial assumes that the user has certain knowledge of how a command line works and optionally how Unix systems work. Windows systems can use FFmpeg as well, and it works in a very similar way with almost exactly the same syntax, only the path names to files are different. The path names are a part of basic command line usage, and it is inferred that the user of this tutorial understands his or her own system's command line. To best learn how to encode a video, one should know some of the basics for how video encoding actually is performed and what the underlying implementation details are. Videos usually contain a variety of different frame types, but we can simplify these to keyframes, which are raw images stored in the video, for example, a complete picture of a face. Then a delta frame contains data to approximate how one frame differs from the previous frame. So a delta frame immediately following a keyframe would show that the eyes of the person have blinked. This saves a lot of space compared to storing entire frames one by one, as would be done with traditional cellulose film. Delta frames work because they can assume that one frame is not drastically different from the previous frame. They can have trouble sometimes encoding immediate changes of scene. Thus, most delta frame implementations use bit rates. A bit rate is the number of bits that the encoded video will contain for each second of video. So a bit rate of 1000 kilobits per second means that a delta frame will have 1000 kilobits to work with to encode changes in the video over the duration of a second. A larger bit rate can allow for sudden changes of scene with no apparent loss of quality. A lower bit rate than necessary leads to mushiness, similar to what is seen on old YouTube videos and Flash videos. These old Flash videos had a lower bit rate in order to allow for their usage and ease of access over a dial-up modem or other low-speed internet connection. Nowadays, they are increasingly uncommon as higher bandwidth internet connections become more common, and YouTube now allows much higher bit rates than it ever used to. As an example of extremely high bit rates, Blu-ray movies and other professional video quality formats have very high bit rates in order to allow sudden scene changes without visible loss in depth. Some of these Blu-ray movies also use other more advanced forms which we will not cover, such as constant rate factor. If you are interested in learning about constant rate factor or other advanced forms of compression, you can check the FFmpeg.org website for more information. To prevent visible degradation from occurring, movies usually contain keyframes stored at intervals to restore the video quality to its original depth. Over time, a lower bitrate will lead to the video appearing to decay and become progressively mushier. The next important element of video formats is the codec. Video codecs specify exactly how mathematically the video is encoded. There are many different ways to encode a video, although not all are equal. Some offer better compression at the cost of more processor power required to decode and encode them, versus others which have less compression but can be played easily on low-power devices. H.264 is one such codec. It is widely supported by devices on the market and will be used as our example for this video. We will be encoding a video in AVI format with MPEG-4 video codec and an MP3 audio codec. The AVI format is a video container format. A container just specifies what the codecs are of the different streams contained in the file. A video is one stream, and the audio that goes alongside it is a separate stream. So now we are ready to try out FFmpeg. FFmpeg means Fast Forward MPEG, and it is open source free software. It is cross-platform, so it can be used from Linux, BSD, Unix, Mac OS, Windows, Android, iOS, and more operating systems. It is almost certainly used by YouTube for encoding videos internally. When a user uploads a video in essentially any format that FFmpeg can support, YouTube can handle it, which implies that they are using FFmpeg, but this is not known for certain. VLC, Media Player Classic, and similar video players also use FFmpeg for decoding videos. There is a command line interface, and there are third-party graphical interfaces available, but these are not always maintained or consistent, and they don't offer the full functionality of the command line program. So now we will start with a short example. So we start with chalkzone.avi. That is the name of the file we are encoding, which is an episode of Nickelodeon's Chalk Zone. It is, as mentioned, encoded with MPEG-4 video codec and MP3 audio. MPEG-4 video is technically supported by Apple devices, which are what I am targeting. However, the AVI container and the MP3 audio codecs are not. Therefore, we need to convert the audio codec to AAC, Advanced Audio Codec, which Apple does support, and the MPEG-4 video container format, or .mp4. Please note that the MPEG-4 video container format is not the same thing as the MPEG-4 video codec. They are both part of the same standard documentation by the MPEG group in their 4th revision. However, one is merely the description of a video codec, and the other is the description of the container, which can support a couple of other video codecs apart from the MPEG-4 video codec. One such example of a codec is H.264. As a result of this, we first make our input for FFmpeg chalkzone.avi. This is specified with -i followed by the name of the file. It is in the current directory, so it does not require a full path. Next, we need to tell FFmpeg to convert the video codec. As previously stated, this is not actually necessary for this video. However, in order to more fully explain how FFmpeg functions, we are going to convert the video codec to H.264. If you did want to pass through the video stream without changing anything and preserving exactly the quality of the current file, you would type -v codec copy. If we are not copying the video stream directly and we are re-encoding it, there will be a slight quality loss. This is natural because video codecs do not preserve exactly the original file in order to offer their massive space savings. However, we can get very close and make it visually appear lossless by setting a high enough video bitrate. So, to change the video codec in the output file to H.264, we type vcodec lib H.264. We use this command because the H.264 video codec's name in FFmpeg, the encoder that FFmpeg uses, is called lib H.264. For a full list, an extensive full list of FFmpeg's codecs, you can type FFmpeg-codecs and press enter. I am going to pipe it through less in order to not have it scroll through the entire thing. As you can see, the list is extensive. We will skip down to H.264. And there it is. The H.264 codec has the encoders available: libx264, libx264RGB, H.264 envenc, and others. We are going to use libx264 because it is widely considered the best video encoder codec for H.264 that FFmpeg has. So back to our example. We need to tell FFmpeg what a good bitrate is for a video. First, I will give an example of too low of a bitrate by setting it to 800 kilobits per second, or 800K. This should produce some mushiness. Next, we take the audio codec. We need to convert the audio format codec to AAC. In order to convert the audio to AAC, we type -A codec, A for audio, libfdk AAC. In this one, your version of FFmpeg may have different libraries available. FDK AAC is not usually included in FFmpeg distributions because it is not technically free software. It cannot be redistributed with FFmpeg, so the user would have to build his own version. In order to use a different AAC library, one can check which ones are available with -codecs. I will filter through the codecs list in order to show quickly what the codecs are that are available. AAC and libfdk AAC are our encoders. Therefore, for most systems, AAC will be the preferred codec and the available one. FDK AAC provides marginally higher quality, which is why it is used in this example. Then we need to set some bit rates, as mentioned earlier. The 800K there was wrong. You don't do it like. In order to change the video bitrate, you need to type -VB followed by the number. So -VB 800K would work. 800K would not. Next, the audio codec, we need to set a bitrate for. As a rule of thumb, for most stereo audio, 128 kilobits per second will give very good quality. There's no easy way to explain this except through experience. As one plays around with bit rates more, one will figure out how best to optimize given a video size and a desired quality. Now we need to set an output file name. For our example, we will just use chalkzone.mp4. The .mp4 extension makes FFmpeg realize that we need an MPEG-4 video container format. Now it's time to try running the command. Press enter, and there's an error because libh264 is not defined. If you check in the ffmpeg.codecs page, you'll see that it is actually libx264. Such mistakes are easy to make for a first-time user, and there is a lot of hassle that can be saved by reading through the documentation carefully. Now the video is converting. At the bottom, the frame number, how many frames are being processed every second, the current size of the outputted video file, how far into the video file the program has gotten, and the current bit rate of the combined audio and video streams. A speed field greater than 1.0 shows that the video will take less time to encode than the full playback time. 1.2 means that it is performing at about 120% of the normal playback speed. A lower speed, for example 0.5, would mean that the video was taking twice as long to encode as it would to playback normally. As the current speed is not particularly high and the video is over 20 minutes, we will cancel this encoding now and check the result. As you can see, the video quality was still relatively good there, so I have chosen a more optimal video bitrate than I had previously expected. To attempt to get a better example of a low bitrate, we will change the video bitrate down to 200K. It is asking us if we want to overwrite the existing file as a safety measure. We say yes and hit enter, and it begins encoding again. We will let it encode for a moment. Our video has reached a decent ending point, and so we will now attempt to play it. As you can see here, the video is much mushier than it was before. Still get a better, more extreme example by setting a video bitrate even lower than the audio bitrate. Audio takes less space to encode than a video, and so the bitrates are usually far lower. However, by setting a lower video bitrate, we can get a good test case. This encode is completed, and we will attempt to play the video again. As you can see, it is having even more trouble keeping up, and it gets progressively worse as the video goes on. To further elaborate on bit rates, there is no steadfast rule for setting good ones. One must generally consider the size, the resolution of the video file. A larger, high-resolution file will take a higher bitrate to encode with decent accuracy and quality versus a lower resolution file. For this example video, which was 640 by 480 pixels, 800 kilobits per second was fine. However, for a larger resolution like 1080p or 720p, 800K may not be sufficient. The higher bitrate, the better the quality, but also the larger the file size of the result. So, some playing around is usually necessary given the given video file, what kinds of changes are performed within it, and how fast those changes occur. FFmpeg has far more features than have been covered in this video. To get a more complete description, the FFmpeg.org website and the accompanying wiki linked to on the site have more examples of usage. It can be used for a massive number of tasks, such as encoding videos, as shown here, recording streams of video from a video capture device, such as a camera or a desktop, or for capturing audio streams, applying filters to audio and video, and even stabilizing videos using more advanced filtering techniques. For example, to stabilize film from a shaky video camera. It can be used to make files usable on devices that they originally were not targeted to, and to convert DVD rips and similar large files to use less space on a hard drive. It is an altogether useful tool that is highly competitive with professional tools, which are far more costly to use. YouTube's probable use of FFmpeg internally confirms this. The FFmpeg webpage can explain all of this and more, but to conclude this video, you should now have some idea of how to encode a video file. There is a lot of information to cover, so thoroughly reading the documentation might be necessary. But for a general guideline for FFmpeg usage and for general overview of how video works on computers, this video may suffice. Thank you for listening.